Hello, hello, hello. The following is a discussion between myself and a certain A.R. Green about the importance of patronage networks in realising a positive vision for this country. Patronage networks are, quite simply, networks wherein powerful patrons provide benefits, such as jobs, goods, resources, or protection, in exchange for support, often monetary, of clientele. This is seen in creative industries, politics, guilds, unions, and many other places. However, they are, as of yet, almost completely absent in the true right, outside of fake right containment that is, yet are vitally important for our advancement as an organised group. So without further ado, I'll jump straight in. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for joining me. I'm joined by A.R. Green, and today we're going to be talking about a positive vision for Britain and patronage networks. So, A.R. Green, if you are willing to introduce a little bit about yourself and what brings you here today?
Hi, obviously I'm A.R. Green. I've been sort of on the edges of, how shall we say, the sphere that we find ourselves in is probably going to be the easiest way to describe it, and it'll be very much a case of if you know, you know.
Yes.
I think, like I say, I slowly drifted from just lurking, like many of you probably in the audience right now, from just leaving a couple of comments to moving a bit more into the center ground to actually do some more talking and get out there on patronage networks, which are something that is brought up recently, and I've found it. He pointed it out and shone a light on it, and then I've gone off and found a few more other interesting things on patronage networks, and I think that they basically are the problem that we have as a culture at the minute. Because one of the things that A mentioned not too long ago was that it seems like our culture's actually beginning to fragment a bit. And it's why you keep getting all of the sort of stuff that Hollywood's producing. And it's all just falling very flat. And I think part of the reason it's falling so flat is because there isn't a single unifying vision of the culture anymore. It's all fragmenting and breaking apart.
Indeed.
Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, especially the younger generations raised on the internet, whereas older generations would have had, I mean, the oldest generations had just either the radio or the 4 channels on the television, but even, you know, a Gen X or a millennial, an older millennial would have had whatever's available in cinema, whatever's popular on TV, whereas now with the internet, of course, everyone can watch whatever they fancy, and, you know, there's so many content creators, probably too many, although I am one myself. And anyone can just find their own niche. And there's no, I mean, there are still unifying parts of our culture, but far less so than was in previous generations, largely due to the internet. And yes, that is fragmenting much of the culture today, of course.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's like people, obviously, I think there was mention of the only thing that really gets talked about in the office these days is like literally the odd reality TV show. But like, I can't really think of the last sort of culture phenomenon that really broke through that sort of divide that everyone watched and everyone was talking about around the water cooler or in schools. The last thing that I can think of that did reach that apex was Game of Thrones, and then it completely fizzled out at the end and just fell apart.
God, it was that show ended awfully. It's a great show, the first
really
4 seasons, but
yeah,
it's a bit like that. You know, the meme of the horse that's really well drawn on one side,
yes, yes,
child's drawing on the other. I mean, you've had things like Squid Games as well. There are occasionally things that most people will have watched, but yeah, it seems that these things are fewer and fewer, whereas in the past, you know, everyone would have watched Harry Potter, everyone would have watched Pirates of the Caribbean, everyone has watched Star Wars, everyone's watched Indiana Jones, and many things like this. There's fewer things like that now.
Yeah, that's it. And it's even more strange because so much of our culture is just making references to that cultural material. And it feels like the younger generations aren't being inculcated within that culture. They don't have their own cultural touchstones to go to the same way that, as you say, a millennial, Gen X, or a boomer does. They're just kind of all siloed into their own little niche and it's as if there's a communications breakdown there because of it.
Yeah, yeah. And it's crazy that for a large section of society, something can be incredibly viral. Everyone's heard of it, and yet people can be totally oblivious. Like even these Labubu figures. I was out in London the other day talking to someone, and she was going on about these Labubus. And I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, apparently, this is little like creepy looking toys or something, and I'd never heard of them, but now I see them; they're everywhere.
Yeah, they touched on my horizon not too long ago. I kind of saw them briefly and was like, oh, that's a thing. Okay.
Yeah,
And it's but that's just that feels kind of like it's a summarization of our culture. You look at it and go, oh, that's a thing now. Okay, and then just move on.
yeah.
Like I've not actually seen Squid Game. I've
No.
not bothered with it. It
I saw the
it
first
seems like it
one,
might
but
be an interesting concept, but
yeah, it was an interesting little series, but I haven't watched the second season, or I don't know if there's any more that's come out. Just watched the first one, and I was just fine to leave it there.
yeah, and it feels like that is another thing, is that Hollywood certainly likes to drag things out as much as they can now. All media seems to be going that way. It drags things out way past the sell-by date, to the point where, you know, they're trying to resurrect franchises that have long been dead, and not only have long been dead, should have been left dead and buried.
Yes, no, Hollywood is it is creatively bankrupt. It's just,
Yeah.
I mean, you get a few gems come out, but nothing like it was before.
Few and far between.
Indeed. Not to get too distracted with films and media.
Yes, we'll pull back to patronage networks. But although, to be fair, patronage networks are very much concerned with films, media, and of all forms.
Of course, yes.
So one of the things that obviously AA covered the birth and creation of jazz as a music genre, and explained basically that it wasn't the public's choice. It was very much a top-down decision made, and that generally came about in what can only be described as mafia tactics, whereby, yes, you had a group of people that wanted this music style to exist, and they refused to take no for an answer, and literally ran it almost like a protection racket. They would capture different industries and different parts of the industry. Say you want to do a live show, they'll go approach a venue, say you're going to put this show on. If they say no, they sandbag the venue, or they find a way to purchase the venue, and then the show goes on.
Yeah.
And it's funny. It's funny because recently there was a video uploaded by someone that at the time I thought was maybe a little bit of a normie, but then upon further investigation, I've discovered, no, they're very much not a normie, and they are a lot more aware than I thought they would be, which genuinely did surprise me. But they were discussing the publishing industry, which is another as in book publishing.
Right.
Which is quite interesting as an industry, especially given what's gone on recently when it comes to sort of how aware are you of romanticy and book talk?
I'm not too aware of the publishing industry at all, really.
Probably for the best. But basically, they've got effectively a memorandum on publishing anything that's produced by what is termed as a white male author. It's just they won't even pick it up and read the manuscripts. They just aren't interested. What they are interested in publishing at the minute seems to be basically erotica rebranded with a sort of more clean look, where they go, oh no, it's not erotica, it's romanticy. And then, you know, you'll read a couple of passages from it and it's like, good Lord, that is some absolute dross. It's literally just the verbal equivalent of hardcore, you know.
Right.
Put it quite frankly. And the thing is that it has happened and come about the exact same way that happened and came about with jazz. Is it's basically been pushed from the top down and said, no, this is what we're going to be publishing now. And it's like, okay, I guess this is the way that the publishing industry's gone.
Mm. Mm.
to which I would say that maybe the fragmentation of culture and everyone sort of going their own separate ways isn't such a bad thing. Maybe the giant beast that's been created needs to fall apart so that better things can grow in its place.
Well, it's a simple, logical argument, really. If culture is downstream of the elites and the elites are our enemies, which we would say they are, then we don't want culture to be in their hands, really.
We want to have our say.
Yes.
We want to have our say in culture. And this is the key. This is where patronage networks come in. If you want to have your say in culture, you need to be willing to stomp up and say, okay, I'm going to put my time, energy, money, and effort into having my say. It doesn't just sort of fall from the tree into your lap, which is what a lot of people seem to want to happen effectively. They make a lot of noise about, why is no one producing stuff for me and my friends? And it's like, well, have you gone out and tried to produce it? Have you gone out and tried to pay people to produce it?
No, most people have not. Most people just expect it. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, which is the key problem. It's like, you're not just going to get fed this by the people at the top, because they've made clear they don't care what you want. Yes. If you want this, you have to go out and get it.
We're fundamentally not driven by supply and demand. These are protection rackets. They have other interests which they're taking into account beyond just profit. So it's not a totally free marketplace. This is not, everyone's producing things that'll be popular. It's people are pushing, as the critical drinker would say, the message.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I verge on more towards the idea that everyone's always pushing the message.
Of course,
it's just sometimes the message is just different. It's like they'll say, "Oh, I've seen that debate on Twitter 100 times. There's no right-wing art," and it's like, okay, so you think that the guy that painted, the Sistine Chapel wouldn't be considered an absolute right-wing radical modern standards?
Yeah.
He was funded by the Pope to go and paint that. Yeah. There was nothing remotely liberal about that act or that art.
No, it's a completely absurd thing to claim. Yeah, people still fall for it, which is amusing, but no, there's right-wing art in many spaces. Even in our spaces, there's an abundance of right-wing artists, and they ought to be organised. They ought to have patronage. They ought to have spaces where they can publish their things and get support for it. But it doesn't mean they don't exist. It's the same in the music industry. Although the popular music, the pop music, is what we're forced to listen to on the radios in any shop you walk into, there are plenty of independent artists doing various genres, completely limitless as far as I'm concerned. It's just that these people aren't pushed by the big record labels or the big radios or whoever else it is. That they're not pushed, so you don't hear of them, but they are definitely still there.
It's funny you mentioned that, because actually I was just out earlier today in a local shopping centre, and I heard some music that it was Tame Impala. Now, I don't particularly consider Tame Impala to be relatively mainstream. It's a little bit out there. It's not massively out there, but it just struck me as odd to be walking through this little town centre going like, that music doesn't. How has that ended up as the sort of background shopping mall music?
Gosh, no, and I work at Marks and Spencer's, and the music there, it's all just subversive modern crap. It's stuff like that song "I Can Buy Myself Flowers," which is it's like girl boss 101 sort of crap. It's painful to listen to, but yeah, interesting to hear other music propping up, and I haven't heard of them, but I'm sure it's a welcome change to the pop music that we're used to.
It was a very welcome change, but like I say, it felt very surreal. I just it's as if you can sort of feel maybe even the managerial strings snap a little bit, and they're like, "Oh, we're meant to play this music here," and it's like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And it definitely. Again, the another thing I spotted when I was out in my little walk in my local town was the town hall had a St. Joseph's cross above it, which surprised me a bit because I've not seen that for quite a while. But
no, I don't see them either. Even on St. George's Day, there's not too many of them.
And that was it. It's literally like on the town hall centre building, which I was a bit, maybe things are changing. Maybe.
Oh, I wish.
Well, time will tell. And hopefully, if we can set out a way to maybe convince a few more people to try to buy into the idea of building patronage networks, and thinking one of the things that I think is really important with it is you can build a network, but what's actually key to it is moving people from a consumerist mindset where they just think, I'm just here to consume whatever is put in front of me. It's moving people from that idea to the idea of actually trying to step up and become a patron. Because there's a very, very big difference between being a consumer and a patron. Obviously, you consumer, you just go to the shop, pick up whatever you want and go, yeah, there's a loop. Whereas when you're a patron, you have to, you are quite involved and almost essential to the vision of whatever the piece of art or music or literature or whatever it is you're trying to bring about. You're involved in that creative process. You're trying to put your stamp on it a bit.
Yes.
Which I think, like I say, I think that we need to move into that mindset specifically. Obviously, it's not a mindset for everyone, but even you can even apply it to simple things like just buying your food. Go to your local store and patronize your local community. Don't go to Asda or Tesco if you can avoid it. And this is the key, if it's not too much trouble, try to find a way to get away from patronizing the machine that hates you, effectively.
Yes, of course. I'm sure if everyone had the option to choose between buying something from friendly people and buying something from subversive people, they would of course choose the friendly thing. But it takes a bit of effort to not buy from the mainstream. It's usually one click away or it's right there on the high street. But it takes a little bit more effort to buy from, let's say, Wilfing's publisher versus Amazon.
Yeah, absolutely.
We should be putting in that effort. We should be making sure our money stays within our network of friendly people. And so over time, we're building up industry, we're building up economic influence and economic power. And that's, vital to growing a faction, is having, economic influence and having money coming in and being able to do the things that money can allow you to do.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't even need to go as far as faction building yet. Faction building can be a long way off in the future. It just depends on how the cards fall. All that you need to be doing currently is thinking in that mindset and just trying to have it so that if the cards do fall a certain way, that there will be a framework there ready to go.
Yes.
That's all that needs to be done. Which, to some degree, I think is what Rupert Lowe is trying to do with the Restore Britain movement. You can see, again, a perfect example of a patronage network. What are you buying into when you spend your 20 quid on a year's membership there? You're patronizing the movement and saying, yeah, I agree. I hope that what is happening here will be good for me and will get the outcomes that I want for the country, because I believe in the man that's leading it.
Yes. And I mean, Rupert Lowe's shown himself to have a decent amount of political tact, and he seems to be that his heart's in the right place. And he's in a minefield. You can go wrong at any step. But currently, I'm hesitant to get involved with it or anything like that. But currently, I think he's done all right. And it's good to see more organizations at least attempt to build up these patronage networks, build up these things independent of the state, independent of, let's say, Peter Thiel and that sort of money. Yes, it's good to see something like Restore Britain.
Yeah, to some degree, that's all it really is. It's just, like you say, it's passing money around between friends to buy. It's just a barter network between friends. And that's the easiest way to think of it and think, look, these people are friendly to me. I know them. I can buy directly from them. I don't need to go to the big faceless bureaucratic system that literally seems to hate me at this point and won't be gone. I don't need to interact with that. I can just go to my friends and buy from them. And there's very little you can push back against on that. 'Cause it's like, what level of hatred do you have for me to the point where you can be like, no, you can't. You're not allowed to trade things between your friends. That's illegal. So when you get to that point, it's like, right, there's nowhere else to turn, literally.
No, that'd be. I mean, it's probably infeasible to even maintain such a policy, and it would definitely be a strong sign of weakness that such measures would have to be resorted to. But no, of course, we can always build up networks, and provided that you're not being stupid with it and not doing overtly criminal stuff, then your network can grow. You can, you can add nodes, you can add transfers of money, which essentially means you can get people to do more things, and by the end of it, everyone's happy. More's done. You've got more power. You've got more resources, and jobs are good.
Yeah, it to some degree comes to it's the exercise of freedom of association. And part of the problem is that the state currently has decided you don't have freedom of association because you don't have the freedom to dissociate.
Mm-hmm.
The state will choose who you will and won't associate with, at which point, right, I am not very free at all then.
No.
And it comes again onto tyranny. And I had an interesting discussion recently where I kind of realized that the ancient Greek description of tyranny is a lot closer and more useful to what I think tyranny actually is, because tyranny doesn't necessarily have to be evil. It generally does end up being evil, but it's basically just a person within a set role expanding their power beyond the bounds of that role.
Right.
So take a king, for instance. There is no reason for a king to need to know every single piece of information about every person that lives within his kingdom. So if he were to try to acquire that knowledge, he's effectively expanding his power beyond what is reasonable for his station to require.
Right. But yes, I mean, it's like liberals have a view, and libertarians as well have a view of power, that the use of power is bad, and we should have as minimal a government as possible, and this, that, and the other. And there's some merit to these arguments, but at the end of the day, what we would think on the true right is that it's not a matter of the power that's wrong. It's how it's used and who's using it. What are the incentives of those in control, of the elites? Do they have a sense of noblesse oblige? Are they serving the interests of our people or a different people? It's not, the use of power that's wrong. We object to who's using it and whether it's against us or in favor of us.
Yeah, it's who's using it and how they're using it, which is part of the problem that libertarians and liberals face, is that basically they want to they continually argue against the use of power because deep down they like the status quo right now. They like the way things are. They don't want it to change. If they did, they would have moved one way or the other in terms of they'd have went either sort of theoretically left or right, but I don't like the terms left and right in general.
Fair enough.
They'd move to one side that demands power to change things, is the point I'm getting across.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and it's all in your elite theory and your Schmitt and all of these philosophers. Power is natural and unavoidable. Hierarchy is natural and unavoidable. And if the right people are in these roles, and that actually I think they can be good. And we talk about patronage networks and the fragmentation of the culture. The worst thing, as far as I can see it, is a culture in the hands of our enemies. Better than that is a fragmented culture where nobody has total control.
Centralized power. Yeah.
But even better than that would be a culture in the hands of our friends, the people that have our loyalty. They want to promote our nation and do the things that we agree with. That's better than a fragmented culture. But that, of course, would have, that takes some, policies and actions and decisions that a lot of people would shy away from and consider to be unfair and beyond the pale. But it's necessary, and we would believe for the good of our people.
Yeah, absolutely. To some degree, I'm not even against the fragmentation of power, because power has become too centralized at this point, where you have people acting in roles where they've already amassed tyrannical power. And the problem with power is once it's amassed in a center like that, it's very hard to give it back, which is where in the fracturing and destabilization of things, I feel to some degree is in itself a natural process. That once you over centralize too much, it's natural for that to then break apart and for you to get all these little splinter groups. And the question then becomes, who controls the splinter groups towards as things move forward? And that's when things can get quite ugly. But at the same point, it's an opportunity. It's a chance for you. If you've gone out there and already started setting up patronage networks, if you started to build yourself and your friends up within your community, you can step into that role. But it just depends, really.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no guarantee that. I mean, of course, accelerationists will say, my ideology will win after the collapse. There's no guarantee that will happen. But
yeah, no, there's not.
Instability is 100% an opportunity, and if you've planned for it, if you've thought about it long before, and you know what's going to happen, then it is an opportunity to get ahead. Unfortunately, our guys have been, not just our guys, but for generations, all the way back to the Victorian era, an actual right-wing movement. I know you dislike the term, but basically the traditionalist, pro-nation people of this country have failed to build proper patronage networks because too many people have put their faith in the establishment, and they bought into lies such as democracy and the will of the masses and all these other liberal illusions. So, and then of course even the dissidents have focused too much on electoral politics, which, if you listen to Scrump and Evelyn or AA or various other people, then electoral politics is all just smoke and mirrors anyway. It's not true power.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a problem where people sink the time and energy into the wrong things, and it's just the part of it is that it's people pushing them to sink the time and energy into the wrong things. Like you say, it's those smoke and mirrors. A lot of people just get confused by them, and I very much agree with Scrump and Evelyn's point that politics is very much not for everyone. There's a lot of people that would be better off just stepping away, and that to some degree is the beauty of patronage networks. You can, to some degree, step away from the political and still be involved in a patronage network, because you could do something as simple as literally just going to your local, whichever society it is that interests you, and try to build it up. You can build it up into something that you like as a vision, and it doesn't necessarily have to be expressly political as everything has become over the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
You will run into, granted, you will, if you push too hard on certain things, run into the politics, because that's just the way that the system's set up at the minute. But to some degree, you can basically just hide and build.
Yes. And, supporting the leaders of the movement, supporting the ideas that you support, the people who you like, and everyone like that is much easier than trying to get involved and trying to navigate the labyrinthine system of traps that are laid before anyone trying to do politics. If you just, all you have to do is, buy a few interesting books, subscribe to some artist that you like, or anything like that. In comparison, that is relatively easy. Of course, it still takes a bit of effort to get yourself out of the mainstream and come into a non-mainstream, non-establishment circle. But realistically, I think actually it's a good message to say that for the vast majority of people, they don't need to get actively involved. They just need to, or it would be most beneficial if they just lent their support to us rather than your big corporate brands or, your made in China products or what have you.
Yeah. The key is you don't need to support, as you say, the made up brands. It's just the whole thing circles and revolves around belief in people. If you can find people that you believe in, stick with them. Find someone you believe in that you think is doing something honest, honorable, and good, and back them as much as you can.
Yeah. The other thing with patronage networks, in Academic Agents videos on various, it was jazz and it was wrestling and a couple other topics. I'll try and put them on screen now. Part of that was the use of mafia-like tactics and things that probably would be considered illegal.
Yes.
And obviously, as a dissident group of people, I don't think we're in the business of doing illegal things. That is obviously the fast track to being shut down by the establishment, who do hold the authority and essentially the means to stop us. How does a dissident group such as ours, or any other group that, I mean hypothetically could be anyone, how does such a group build these patronage networks and resist the hostile attempts of other people to subvert, buy out, contain, and whatever have you, nodes that would have been loyal to us?
Again, that's quite a complex topic and it is quite a complicated problem, but I think it comes back to the belief in people. If you have that genuine human connection to a person, you're not going to be able to get this big corporation come in and say, oh, I'm going to offer this person infinite money to take away the thing that they love, because they're just going to tell the corporation to get stuff and go away, which is kind of the key of it. It's like, I'm currently in the middle of writing something. You could get the big state come in and say, we'll offer you infinite money for it. And I'll say, it's not about the money. It's about what I want. And I'm putting it down on the page, whether you want me to or not, no matter how much you pay me. Yeah. I'm going to keep doing what I want to do. End of discussion. I've got nothing to say to you. I'm just going to step over you and keep going.
Yes, exactly. And I'm in the same boat. Like, I'm sure that it'd be easy for me. I have the skill, I have the editing skill, I have, I could just make slop. I could become like my R2C or any other containment sloppy list. I can make utter crap videos and I'd probably get more clicks, I'd probably get more attention. I could sell out, I could write for various, pseudo hostile magazines, but I don't want to do this. I am deliberately foregoing my own personal enrichment because all of that's not what matters. What matters is the advancement of, well, in a way, our group as a faction. And it's not a properly organised faction yet, not by any means, but still, I don't wish to sell out. I refuse to sell out. And I know that there are many people within our sphere who would refuse to sell out. And, unless they're going to come along and, smash my knees in or something like that, then I'm not, you can't buy me. You can't subvert me. You can't contain me. I'm just going to continue putting out my message and, get stuffed if you're going to try and stop me.
Yeah, it's a fair attitude to have. It's like, I get a bit funny about the language, like you say, because it's not an organized group. It's not really even a faction. For me, it's literally just about, I like my kin and I will do things to help my kin.
Yep.
End of story. And it doesn't go beyond that. It's not that I don't like other people. It's that I feel like my kin have been treated like beaten dogs at this point, and I think they deserve something. And I'm going to try to give it to them.
Yeah. And it's only natural to have a preference for your own people. In fact, it's very unnatural to not have that preference. And I know it's common these days to, be told that multiculturalism's good and ethnic preference is bad. But you go back throughout all of history, people prefer their own country, their own countrymen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things that's gotten obviously come up a lot is like nationalism, ethno-nationalism, civic nationalism. In truth, I'm quite firmly of the opinion it's all just nationalism. And I say that on the grounds of if you actually dig into the etymological roots of the word nationalism, it all springs, if you like, it all springs from natio, which is a old Latin word, and it literally translates into modern English as birth / of the race. So you literally the root word of national is pointing directly to race, and then you get people saying, "Oh no, it's not about race," and it's like if you break up the word, it literally is. Literally, that's where it came from. Like, there's no getting around it. You can't say, "Oh, I'm a civic nationalist." It's like, okay, you're a civic race. It's a weird thing to be. But then it also unravels the word ethnicity with it, because if you dig into the etymological roots of the word ethnicity, it's ethnos, which is the Greek word pointing directly to nation. So you literally have the definition of the word nation encapsulated within the word ethnos. So you're literally, it's a circular word that has been jumbled around in order to create this sort of chimera word or phrase to undercut what it actually means. And once you peel it back and say, right, no, I'm not interested in that, I'm not interested in that, what does the word actually mean? You dig down into it and it just says, yeah, it's pointing to people. And it's like, yeah, it's pointing to a specific people. And there's no way to sort of expand it out beyond that other than literally creating Frankenstein's monster, which is what they've tried to do.
Yes, and for a while it works, of course, to do these crazy word plays, but these lies that they've constructed aren't compatible with nature, aren't compatible with reality, and it's becoming glaringly obvious that they've been up to no good with this stuff. People are noticing that, and the people are saying, "Oh, hang on a minute, that doesn't make sense. That should be this. That comes from there." All sorts of things like this, and people are returning to what we would have called a common sense understanding of the world.
Yeah, that's it. As the systems start to break down, nature becomes a lot more apparent. And as nature becomes more apparent, people struggle to fit their ideologies into the natural framework. So it starts to break down. But if you drop all of your ideologies anyway and say, I just believe in people, you don't need to worry about it anymore. You can just say, yeah, no, it's no worry. It goes over my head. I don't care about it. I'm going to step over it. And I'm just going to support the people that I like.
Yeah. No, it's a very simple conception of loyalty for us. I'm not sure if, how complex you thought about it, but for me, it's loyalty according to genetic proximity. It's my family first, then my clan, then, my region or my, people closer to me, then my nation, my country, then maybe, I don't know, the extended Germanic tribe, then the race, then all of humanity. But at the core, it's family, and high up on the priority list is the nation. And as long as you're realistic about everything else, just having that basic sense of loyalty, it kind of everything else flows from there. It's all a matter of pragmatically what's right and what's wrong. It's realism is doing most of the heavy lifting, but all you need is that loyalty, that preference for your own people.
Yeah, if you're loyal to your own family, you can't really go too far wrong. That's the thing, and that's where the attacks upon the family have been quite sinister, in that they've tried to basically upend that natural order. And now you can see as a result of it, things are starting to fall apart very quickly.
Yeah.
And I think that's how that's always going to. It's always how it's going to go. You can't upend that natural order because it's just hard coded. It's hard coded as a success strategy. And if you're not following it, you're going to lose. In which case, it doesn't matter anymore because you're gone.
Yeah, those who fail to follow it fall behind, and those who follow it get ahead. It's, simple equation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that pretty much covers it. I think I do have some stuff to shill, which is specifically the Corncrake mag. Go read the Corncrake mag, a very good publication. I've got my story has been appearing in there as a it's been getting dropped in batches of 3. So I do 3 months on and then have a month off. And I think next part should be out next month, which will be part 7.
Lovely. Yes, everyone go read the Corncrake.
Well, thank you very much for having me on.
Yes, it's been a very interesting conversation. I've certainly not been thinking about things exactly the same way myself. So, it's new ways of thinking about things, which is always good. And hopefully for the audience, they'll also come away thinking about things in terms of not just being a, lowest common denominator consumer, but thinking in terms of patronage of the people they want to succeed.
Yeah. Perfect way to put it.
Yes. All right. Well, with that, thank you for coming on, and I'm sure I'll talk to you again at some point soon. So,
yep. See you later.